Hello. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am so glad that you're here. I feel so honored and grateful to be able to share in this time and space together. My name is Michelle, and today I will be facilitating a TCTSY practice. And if you're interested in learning more about the specific TCTSY yoga practice, please feel free to check out one of the introduction videos that I have on the channel. It kind of provides a bit more background and detail about TCTSY as a specific form of trauma-sensitive yoga, and can provide a bit more detail for you there if you're interested. And perhaps before settling into your practice today, just a couple notes of awareness I'd like to offer. One of them being about props. No props are needed or necessary for this practice. I do have a blanket here that I might choose to use. However, they're not needed or necessary. However, if you do know that there are certain props or items that you'd like to have available for your practice, please feel free to take any amount of time that you need to gather anything that you'd like for your practice today and bring them into your space to have available for you. And then a note about kind of the end of this video. I typically kind of end and wrap up the video with a final kind of note of well wishes for you, and then we'll leave the video to end at that point, just as a way for you to continue into whatever space you might create for yourself today. So a little note I'd like to offer at the beginning of this practice is, if you connect with this content in any way and feel called to maybe interact, whether it's liking, sharing, commenting, checking out the other resources that are linked within the video notes, please feel free to do so if you feel called to. It is so greatly appreciated, and that is one of the ways to help make this type of trauma-sensitive yoga, this TCTSY offering, a bit more widely accessible to more folks. So thanks so much for considering that. All right. So whenever you might feel ready to begin your practice, if you're choosing to interact or participate in any type of interaction with your body today within this practice, you might begin to arrive in your own way, in any way that's interesting to you, whether you're choosing a specific shape to settle into. Maybe you're choosing a form seated somewhere in your space. Maybe you're choosing a different shape. Maybe beginning to arrive in this time, in this space, perhaps arriving in your body in any way that feels interesting to you. Maybe recognizing that you have arrived here. You are here in this moment right now. Maybe arriving in this moment for you looks like movement in your body in some way. Maybe it's arriving in a specific shape. And perhaps as you might arrive in your own time and in your own way, you might be interested in beginning to add some kind of movement to your body. Maybe there's an initial sense that you begin to explore specific movement in a certain part of your body. Or if you'd like to begin with a specific type of movement, maybe movement for your spine, perhaps in a seated position or a different position, you might begin to offer movement in your spine, perhaps with a few different options. Maybe one option to add movement to your spine could be to bend side to side. Maybe creating an arc shape with your body. Maybe beginning with one direction. Maybe you begin on one side, adding any amount of side bend or arc. Choice to maybe try a side bend on the other side of your body. So maybe you explore the option of a side bend for your spine. Maybe on one side of your body, maybe you explore both. Option to move from side to side if you're interested in exploring this type of movement. So one option that you might choose to begin to explore movement in your spine could be to move from side to side. Another option, if you're interested in exploring spinal movements, could be to add rounding of your spine. Maybe you begin to round your spine, perhaps tucking your chin, maybe even drawing your shoulders forward. So maybe you choose to add movement to your spine with side movements, or maybe you explore a shape of rounding your spine, and perhaps another shape that you could choose for spinal movement could be to add some extension or lengthening of your spine, maybe bringing your heart forward, maybe adding an arch kind of shape for your spine as you might bring your chin upward. Maybe you choose to stay in this lengthened shape with your spine or your rounded shape. Or another option could be to move between these two shapes. Maybe moving between arching and rounding your spine. So a few options you could explore for spinal movements if you're interested, maybe side to side movements, maybe arching and rounding your spine, or lengthening and rounding your spine. If you're exploring spinal movements or not, maybe you're choosing something completely different altogether. Maybe inviting yourself, if you're interested, to notice your breath. Maybe noticing that you're breathing here. And whatever shape or movement you might be exploring, if you're interested in noticing your breath, maybe you're aware of some sensation in your body. Maybe noticing sensation somewhere in your body if you're choosing to notice your breath. Maybe noticing sensation as you breathe. Or perhaps if you're interested and if you are exploring movement with your spine and perhaps different options, whether you choose one option or explore a variety of different options. If you're choosing movement for your spine, maybe you notice sensation somewhere in your body if you're exploring movement here. Maybe if you're choosing spinal movements, you notice sensation in the muscles around your spine. Maybe somewhere in your upper back, around your rib cage. Maybe at your center or abdomen. Or maybe you notice sensation somewhere else. Or possibly you might not notice sensation at all. Inviting yourself to maybe explore spinal movement, or if you're interested in perhaps trying a different shape or different movement here, perhaps from a seated position, if you'd like to explore this next option from seated, could be to add rotation for your spine. So maybe a third option or shape could be to add rotation. Maybe turning to one direction, perhaps for a twist. Maybe you bring one of your arms behind you as your opposite arm might cross your body any amount. You might choose to stay on one side, maybe exploring the option of a twisted shape. Or you might choose to explore a rotation or twist on the other side of your body. Maybe twisting to the other side in your own time. Or you might choose to explore this rotation or twisted shape on one side. So the duration of time that you might stay in a particular shape is always your choice. The amount of movement you might offer into your shape with your body is always your choice, whether you add large or small movements. So maybe you choose to add rotation to your spine with a twist or rotation. Maybe on one side, maybe you choose to twist from side to side. Maybe for 3, perhaps for 2, maybe for 1. Maybe inviting yourself to stay any longer that you'd like to, or if you'd like to try a different shape out, perhaps you might explore tabletop form as another shape option. Maybe exploring some spinal movement options from a tabletop shape. If you like to have anything for underneath your knees, I might bring in a folded blanket. You might add a different prop in, or maybe no props at all. Maybe as you arrive in your tabletop shape in your own time, if you'd like to explore spinal movements, maybe that arching and rounding from your tabletop form, you might begin with lengthening your spine, maybe lifting your chin, maybe tucking your toes. You might choose to stay in this particular arched spine or lengthened spine shape. Or maybe you choose to move into a second shape option with rounding your spine. So you might choose to round your spine, tucking your chin, maybe flipping onto the tops of your feet. Maybe you choose to stay in this rounded spine shape, or a different option could be to link these shapes together, perhaps moving from your lengthened spine shape to your rounded spine shape. So maybe you choose to stay in one of those shapes for a duration of time. Maybe you choose to link your shapes together into a movement. Perhaps if you're interested, you might notice your breathing here as you might explore movement or explore one of these shapes. Maybe you notice sensation as you breathe. Maybe some sensation somewhere in your body. Or perhaps if you're interested and if you're moving between these two shapes, you might even link your breath with your movement. Maybe inhaling one direction and exhaling the other direction. If you're choosing to breathe and move with your body between these shapes, you might even explore or find your own rhythm. Whether you're breathing as you move or whether you breathe and then choose to move. Maybe for 3, perhaps for 2, maybe for 1. You're welcome to continue with either of these shapes or movements. Or if you'd like to try a different shape, perhaps you could explore an upside down V shape as an option by maybe walking your hands slightly forward. You might tuck your toes as you might lift your hips up and back. Maybe bringing your heels down towards the earth. Maybe creating an upside down V shape with your body if you're interested. Making any adjustments from this position. If you're trying this shape out, you might choose to stay in stillness, exploring any sensation that you could notice somewhere in your body. Or if you'd like to add movement in your upside down V shape, you might bend one of your knees and extend your other leg. And then you might alternate from side to side, maybe bending one of your knees and then the other. Maybe adding movement to your upside down V shape if you're interested. You might stay here, maybe choosing stillness, maybe adding movement, always your choice to make. Or if you'd like to try a different shape, you might move into the option of a forward fold by starting to walk your hands and your feet toward each other. Maybe exploring the option of a forward fold. You might stay in stillness, maybe adding any adjustments or shifts into your body. Maybe a bend in your knees. You might stay in stillness here in your forward fold if you'd like to explore a forward fold shape. Or you might add movement. Maybe you sway side to side in some way. You might even choose to walk your hands over towards one side of your body, maybe along the outer edge of one of your feet. Maybe staying for a duration of time. Or you might walk your hands over to the other side. So options in your forward fold, maybe stillness, maybe swaying from side to side, maybe walking your hands towards one side before you might move to the other side, or you might stay on one side. You might stay in your forward fold, or if you'd like to try out a different shape, you might come up to standing in your own time and in your own way. Maybe arriving in any standing position. Perhaps moving into an option of a position where you might walk your feet further away from each other. Maybe orienting yourself with the longer edge of your mat if you're using a mat, or a longer edge of your space. And perhaps from this particular position, if you'd like to try out a shape by turning one of your toes, so one foot maybe towards the shorter end of your mat. Maybe you choose to bend your knee of that same side foot. Your arms might come to a T shape if you'd like, towards shoulder height. You might explore this shape if you're interested. Maybe allowing your gaze to find any direction that feels interesting to you. You might stay in stillness in this particular shape, or if you'd like to add movement, you could bring your arms up overhead as you might extend your front leg long. And then maybe you bring your arms back down where your arms started as you might rebend your knee. Maybe you lift your arms overhead any amount as you extend your leg, and then you might rebend your knee as you bring your arms down. Maybe you stay in stillness. Maybe there's a different shape or movement that you'd like to explore that's completely different here. Always your choice to try something different at any time for any reason. Maybe you choose to stay with one of these options, whether you're in movement or stillness, or if you'd like to try a different shape, you might bring your feet parallel with each other. Still maybe facing the long edge of your mat or of your space. And if you'd like to try out a forward fold with your feet walked away from each other, having some space between your feet, you could begin to fold in your own time. Folding in any way, whether you choose to have your hands at your hips or at your sides. You might even choose to extend one or both of your arms as you might begin to fold forward any amount if you're interested in a forward fold here. Maybe in your forward fold, you choose to stay at your center. Or an option could be to add rotation in your fold. If you're interested in adding rotation in your fold shape option, you might begin to extend one of your arms upward any amount, staying however long you'd like to. If you're interested in trying rotation on the other side, you could always bring your hand that you lifted up back down. And then you might extend your other hand up, maybe towards the sky. The amount that you might lift your hand or your arm is your choice. You might choose to move your gaze in a certain way, whether you choose a still spot for your gaze to rest on. Your gaze might follow your hand that could be moving. If you're choosing to try out rotation in your fold, maybe you stay on one side for a certain amount of time before you move to the other side, or you might move from side to side, maybe exploring or finding your own rhythm and your own pace. Option of staying in stillness in your forward fold or trying something completely different as well. Maybe for 3, perhaps for 2, maybe for 1. You're always welcome to stay longer if you'd like, or if you'd like to try some shapes out from standing again in your wide-legged stance, you could begin to maybe bring your torso back up towards your center in your own way and in your own time. And maybe you choose to move your other toes or your other foot to face the opposite short end of your mat or space. Maybe you bend your knee on that same side. Your arms might move into a T position, maybe around shoulder height. Maybe you move your gaze in a certain direction. Maybe exploring this particular shape on the other side of your body if you're interested. And you might choose to stay in stillness here for any amount of time. Or if you'd like to add a movement option in this shape, you could bring your arms up overhead as you might lengthen your front leg or that leg that had your knee bent. And then you might revisit your initial shape by rebending your knee as your arms might come down to your T shape. Maybe you choose to explore movement as you might bend and extend your leg or move your arms up overhead. You might even explore stillness with your arms overhead and your leg extended. Option to maybe explore your shape in stillness. If you're trying this shape out on this side, or maybe you explore movement. And you might know a different way that you'd like to explore movement in this shape or in a different shape. Maybe inviting yourself the freedom to explore based on sensation that you might feel in your own body. Maybe for 3, perhaps for 2, and maybe for 1. And if you're interested in maybe moving to a new or different shape in your own time, you might eventually come back to your kind of center or standing on your mat. Maybe beginning to fold forward in your own way. Perhaps the option if you'd like to revisit your upside down V shape. So you might begin to fold if you'd like to, planting your hands maybe on your surface here. You might begin to walk your feet back, walk your hands forward. You might choose to explore your upside down V shape. Maybe you choose to revisit your upside down V shape as an option, or you might choose to come into a tabletop position, maybe revisiting tabletop form, maybe in stillness, or you might revisit the options of rounding your spine and then maybe lengthening your spine. Maybe you try out revisiting a shape you might have explored earlier in your practice. Maybe you choose your upside down V shape, or maybe you choose rounding your spine or lengthening your spine, or maybe moving between rounding and lengthening your spine. And you might stay here wherever you might be choosing, if it's a particular shape or movement. Or if you're interested in perhaps exploring a final shape option, maybe on your back, you might begin to move into a position on your back in your own way and in your own time. So arriving on your back, if you're interested, in your own way, in your own time. And maybe as you arrive on your back, option for potential movement for your hips and your low back. So one of those options could be to walk your feet or plant your feet on the surface, on the earth or your mat. Maybe your knees bent here. And if you'd like to, you might begin to allow your legs to maybe fall to one side of your mat. Maybe staying here as you might keep your shoulder blades maybe on the earth, maybe your chest open towards the sky, as your legs only might move to one direction any amount. You might stay here on one side, maybe exploring some of this rotation movement or option for your hips. Or if you'd like to, you could try your other side in your own time. Maybe moving your legs to stay perhaps bent as you might let them fall towards the other side any amount. You might stay in stillness on one of these sides, either side, for any amount of time. Or if you'd like to add movement by moving side to side, in your own time you might move back to your first side, and then maybe move from side to side. Maybe for 3, perhaps for 2, maybe for 1. And then if you'd like to receive some time to explore any other movements or shapes that you might be interested in trying out, you might receive some time here to explore that for yourself. Or if you're interested in exploring the opportunity of rest in some way, you might move into a specific shape that you'd like to explore that from, whether you choose a seated form, standing, maybe a position on your back or side. Freedom to, and maybe revisit a shape you might have tried out earlier in your practice, or maybe you try something new. Maybe you add some movement into your body. Maybe you find stillness or some form of stillness in a certain shape. As you might maybe arrive back here in this moment, in this present experience that you might be noticing in your body. Maybe exploring the opportunity of experimenting with rest in some way. And maybe that's exploring stillness in some fashion in a particular shape. Maybe that's adding some movement. And as you might experiment with rest, I will offer about 30 seconds of silence from my voice that I will use a timer for. I'll let you know once 30 seconds has passed by returning again with my voice. before final close to practice today. And then that 30 seconds of silence will begin now. The 30 seconds has passed. You might begin to arrive back in your body in this present moment. Again, in any way that feels interesting to you. You might choose to stay exactly where you are. Maybe arriving back here by maybe noticing any sensation that you might have with connection to the surface that is supporting you. Or maybe you choose to add any amount of movement to your fingertips and toes, or maybe there's a different type of movement that you might like to explore at this time as you might arrive back into this moment. Or if you'd like to move to a new or different shape, you might receive some time to move in any way as you might arrive in a final closing shape for your practice today. Maybe honoring all that you created or showed up for yourself today. And perhaps if anything felt interesting to you throughout your practice, anything that might feel useful to you, you're welcome to take that with you and maybe leave the rest behind. I thank you so much for sharing in this time and space with me. And although we might be practicing in our own spaces, we're still here together. What an honor it is to be here with you. I am always wishing you well.